Action by itself is neither good nor bad. It has no properties, no qualities, action by itself. But welcome to study of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We have read in the last verse that na buddhi bedam janayed ajnanam. One thing that a person shouldn't do is to disturb other person's faith. Whatever a person's faith is, we should allow that person to grow according to his or her own law of growth. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda. Do not pluck somebody from somewhere and try to plant it somewhere. The other day I had gone to a nursery, and the horticulturist, he was saying that, look here, the plant, you can take this plant, but make sure that you just do not transplant it tomorrow or even today or tomorrow itself. If when you take out the plant undergoes stress, apparently. So wherever any environment it is, and it has got used to that environment. So you take it home, keep it in the same pot, in a safe place where there is no heavy winds or severe sun and all of that, and then leave it there for some time, water it and take care of it. After some time, you can replant it. This is something which I didn't know before, but this was a new thing for me. So when we look at the nature itself, nature doesn't want us to be plucked out from our situation and then immediately taken somewhere, but slowly. That is why Shanaihi Shanaihi, the Bhagavad Gita and all our scriptures say this. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparame. That means do it slowly. Do not do it in a hurry, because you need to get used to the new environment. Similarly, when somebody is believing something, we should not just pluck that person out and then take him away and then say, oh, take this. That is no good for you. And then this, I think I mentioned to you last time an example of a particular young gentleman whom we knew. He was doing great work. He was a bachelor and he was doing wonderful work. And then suddenly some austere monk comes and tells him, look here, all of this is Maya, all of this is of no use, Give up everything and come with me to the Himalayas. We shall roam about in the Himalayas. Poor fellow, he roamed about with him for some time and he lost whatever faith he had in himself, and also he did not have any faith in the person who took him also. He became antagonistic to that person. So, and then naturally, while he came back as a wreck, mental wreck. So that is not to be done. We take everyone from where he or she is and then raise him. That is the greatness of Bhagavad Gita here. Says, na buddhi bhedam ajnanam, because somebody is less intelligent than you or less competent than you, then do not put that person down. Rather, try to raise him or herself from that position. Give him the necessary tools and then let him be raised from that position. It's an important teaching. Joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yuktaha samacharan. Sarvakarmani, all the actions that we do is joshayet. What one should do is to make that person interested in it, but not pluck him away from the familiar environs or familiar surroundings. Having said that, Sri Krishna now talks about the attitude of a jnani, attitude of a knower. What is the attitude of a knower? Prakrite kriyamanani gunaih karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. 27th verse of the 3rd chapter. It says, Prakritehe guna karmani kriyamanani gunaih karmani. It says, Prakritehe. Prakriti means nature. Prakriti is composed of the 3 components. Anything that you take in nature is composed of these 3. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, about which all of you are aware of. So these gunas or these characteristics of Prakriti, that is of nature, sarvashaha karmani kriyamanani. That means everywhere actions are performed with these 3 things. That is sattva karma, rajas karma or tamas karma. And he says ahankara vimudhatma. See, nature is doing its actions depending upon these 3 characteristics. Ahankara vimudhatma, a person deluded by egotism, a person who is not enlightened, or a person who is terribly individualistic, thinking of oneself as above everything. So we have in the Prashna Upanishad, Indra Virochana, the story of Indra and Virochana. Indra was the god of all gods. And then Virochana was the king of all demons. So Indra, they both approach Prajapati, that is the creator, Brahma, and ask him for instructions. So Prajapati says, know yourself as Brahman, know thyself as the Supreme Brahman. Meditate upon these words, come back to me and tell me what you feel about it. So both Indra and Virochana go and they start meditating for several years on this one theme, that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. So Virochana, the chief among all the demons, Virochana thinks, well, what am I made out of, or what am I? I am what I see myself as. I see myself as the body. What is grossly known about myself? About my body. I know about my body, therefore my body is Brahman, and therefore I should look after it, I should pamper it, and I should make the most out of this body. That was Virochana's understanding of the knowledge of Brahman. Then Indra also meditates for a long time. He also, in the beginning, he thinks, oh, what I know about myself is this body, the body that was given to me by nature. That is what I am. But there was a little bit of Shraddha, a little bit of deep understanding in him. So he goes deeper and deeper, said, the body, of course, is subject to birth, decay and death. If this body is everything, how can it be the Brahman? How can it be the eternity or eternal truth? He meditates further, goes deeper and deeper into himself, then finds that Prajapati's teaching about himself does not mean this body, nor does it mean the mind, but it means the witness, that is the self, which is looking through this body, which is conducting all the activities through this body. So, Prakriti, Gunaihi Karmani. Therefore, here Sri Krishna says that the deluded person thinks, Karta Aham, I am the doer, I am the doer, I am the doer. So this is the difference between a jnani and an ajnani, a knower and an ordinary ignorant person is in that. Whereas the jnani is aware that he or she is the sakshi, the witness to all the happenings of Prakriti, that is of nature. And that, in the next verse he says, Tattvavittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayo guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. Says Mahabhaha, O mighty armed Arjuna, Guna karma vibhagayoho, of the divisions of the dispositions of nature and of actions springing from them, tattvavit, to knower of the real truth about them, gunaihi, that means gunaha, dispositions of nature as organs, guneshu, in dispositions as objects, vartante, remain, iti matva, knowing thus, na sajjate, does not become attached. Those who know the truth that the dispositions of nature and the actions springing from them are distinct from the self, they do not get attached. Karma, action, has two parts. One is the external part of action, or the outer layer of action, and then the inner layer of action. The inner layer is the gunas. Every action that we perform, then it has got both the external and inner layer. The inner layer has these properties of sattva, rajas and tamas, and our actions are all guided by these. And the external layer is the karma per se, that means the action that is needed in this world. So tattvavittu mahabaho, by a knower of Brahman, is one who knows that there is the difference between the guna, that means the properties of the karma, and the karma per se, that means the action. So action by itself is neither good nor bad. It has no properties, no qualities, action by itself. But it is the inner propensities that guide the action towards good or towards the bad. That is it that makes an action good or bad. Sri Krishna elsewhere he has said that this whole universe has been built on the platform of karma. That means action. The karma, and he calls that yajna also. So yajna by itself has no good or bad. It is there to be performed and you perform it. Therefore he says here, tattvavit, a person who is a knower, a jnani, what does he do? He performs all of his actions in such a manner that he remains a witness to the ongoings. He remains a witness to all the ongoings. And as a result, what he gets is the essence out of the work and not the results of the work. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of an ant. You place before an ant a mixture of sugar and white sand. When you do that, what does the ant do? It goes and just takes out only the sugar, even though the granules of both sand and sugar may look alike, yet it will just take only the sugar. That's what the Jnani does. He performs the actions, but he rejects the results thereof, rejects the results, whether it be good or bad. He says, action has to be performed, let me perform the action. In the Bhagavata, we come across a beautiful story of Vyasa, sage Vyasa, and the gopis. Sage Vyasa was resting under a tree by the river Yamuna, on the banks of the river Yamuna. Some gopis, the women of Vrindavan, they come to the tree, under the tree, and then they see that the river Yamuna is in spate, that is, it is full, it is overflowing and flooding. So none of the boatsmen were ready to take them to the other shore. And so they see this old man sitting there under the tree, a saint. So they expressed their anxiety. Look here, on the other side of the river, there are many young children and old people who need our milk and yogurt and ghee and other things. But unfortunately, we are unable to reach them. They will all be hungry and no boatsman is coming. So tell us what we should do. Should we just go back without delivering anything and then thus incur the sin of not feeding the children and the old people over there? Or should we try to make an effort to go? But unfortunately, we cannot go over there. Can you tell us what we should do? What is our duty? Vyasa says, well, my dears, I am very hungry. So, if you want to go to the other side of the river, I can make you go over there. I can ask the river to part and you will be able to walk through. But I am extremely hungry, so give me the food that you have brought. So he ate much of the food that was brought, completely, fully satisfied. He goes to the river bank, holds his hands and prays to Mother Yamuna. O Mother Yamuna, if I have not eaten anything, if I am truthful, please part. As soon as he said these words, the Yamuna parts and the gopis are able to walk through and go through the other side. Once they were safely on the other side, they said, what a wonderful person this old man is. He ate much of our food and he says that he has not eaten anything at all. So they go and ask Sri Krishna this question. Sri Krishna was also on the other side. What is this that this sage Vyasa did? And then the river Yamuna parted. It's very strange for us. Then Sri Krishna says, well, sage Vyasa knows very well that he is not the doer, he is not eating. he is not enjoying. It is the self, the Atman, or it is the Gunaha Guneshu Vartanta, it is the elements that enjoy them, but he is not enjoying as the self, as the Atman. He is the witness. So Tattvavit, such a person is known as the Tattvavit, knower of the essence. Tattva means essence, knower of the essence. The difference between a karmi and a karma yogi. Karmi is a person who just performs one's actions because one is required to do it, and also out of desires one performs. The difference between the karmi and a karma yogi is in this. A karmi works with desires, and according to the force of his habit, he performs his work without disassociating himself from the action. Whereas a jnani also performs the same action, but without having the sense of ownership. The sense of ownership. It is, as we study the Bhagavad Gita, this concept will become clearer and clearer. So, Swami Vivekananda says, nature is thy slave, thee not the slave of nature. You are not the slave of nature. Nature is your slave, but we make ourselves the slaves of nature. That is the only difference between a karmi and a karma yogi or a jnani over here. Tattvavittu mahabaho guna guneshu vartanta prakriter guna sammudhaha sajjante guna karmasu tana kritsnavido mandan kritsnavinna vichalayet. Prakrutehe gunasammud. Man, deluded by the dispositions of nature, get attached to work prompted by these dispositions. See, much of the actions that we do, or most of the actions that we do, are guided by this sattva, rajas, or tamas. For example, we want to study the Bhagavad Gita, or we want to meditate or go to the temple, or we are guided by sattva. It is also a slavery, definitely, no doubt. Sattva is also a slavery, but it is of a better slavery, the way from where there is a chance of freedom. Some are guided by name and fame, etc. So they are the Rajasic people. That means their actions are guided by Rajas. And some do wicked actions, untruthful actions, and they are guided by the tamas of the work. So all these three natures are inherent in our everyday life. There is no doubt about that. We do it every day. But there is a need for becoming a sakshi, that means a witness. If we do not, that is where we lose focus on our main actions. We need to become a sakshi at times. It is very, very important. Meditations, sadhana, that is, or upasana, that is meditation, is one part, wherein you try to go within yourself, observe all of the actions, the movements of your mind, and then you realize where you have gone wrong or where you should detach yourself completely, totally. That is very important. So, Sri Krishna says, men deluded by the disposition of nature get attached to work prompted by these dispositions. Those who know the whole truth should not unsettle these dull-witted men of imperfect understanding. So he again reiterates that do not try to preach this to anybody and everyone. Christ says in the Bible, do not throw pearls before the swine. because it doesn't know that it is the pearls. So there is no point in wasting your energies in trying to. When Yam, the author of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, I think I must have mentioned this, but I will say that again. He says when he goes to Sri Ramakrishna asks him, "Do you believe in God with form or without form?" Yam says, "Well, I believe in God without form." And then he adds further. He says that, well, those who think that God has form are ignorant. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna retorts and says, "And you are a jnani, is it?" You are a jnani and you do not know anything yourself and you try to preach to others. So that's not what one should do. So do not unsettle these dull-witted persons of imperfect understanding. That is why in many religions, especially in Hinduism, you have different kinds of worship. Within the same family, some may be of an intellectual type, their worship may be of an intellectual type, some worship may be of the very, ordinary type, but there is that harmony within everyone. There is no disturbing one's understanding over there. That's what we should try to do. Let us go to the 30th verse. Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyaadhyatmacetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatachvaraha. Now, Sri Krishna is now giving us some instructions about how to achieve to that state of jnani. How can we do that? There are two methods. One is the path of jnana and the other is the path of bhakti, dedication, total dedication. So he says, now Sri Arjuna was faced with this dilemma. And so he asks this question, if work is more superior than jnana and other things, then why did you preach to me about jnana in the second chapter? This is the third chapter. So Sri Krishna had to tell him, yes, I did teach you about the jnana. What I did was, I put before you the highest ideal. I put before you the highest ideal, and I am now giving you several methods of approach towards that ideal. Whichever is suitable to you, yathechasi tatha kuru, Sri Krishna says, whatever you want, you do. I will give you full freedom to do whatever you want. But let me enumerate the different paths that are present in spirituality. So he says, Mayi sarvani karmani. Sarvani karmani, that means all actions. That means whether it be selfish actions or it be unselfish actions, all of them you offer to me. A devotee once asked a saint, well, it is said that we should offer our everything to the divine. We can understand that we should offer to the divine all the good things, our good thoughts, and our all the good objects of worship, etc. But how is it that you say that we should offer everything? That means even the evil thoughts and evil actions, everything. Can we do that? A bhakta, a devotee, of course, does not want to offer the evil actions or evil thoughts to the divine. Does not. Because he knows that by doing so, he is troubling the Lord. That's all. But Sri Krishna says very clearly here that any action for that matter, good or bad, you just offer it to me and I will purify you. I will make it pure and I will give it back to you so that you can function in this world without any worries or without any concerns. That's the idea. Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. He says adhyatma chetas, with the mind in unison with the spirit. Adhyatma chetas. That's how the translation has been made here. With mind in unison with the spirit. That is the idea. See, whenever we are offering also, our mind should not be here or there and just make the offering. No, our mind also should be involved, become one with the offering itself. When I say Sri Krishna Arpanamastu or Ramakrishna Arpanamastu, whatever it is, I should feel that I am really offering it. It's not just words, but all the thoughts and words must be in unison. It must be together. That is the idea. Adhyatma chetasa. So, Sri Krishna here is saying, Nirashihi. Nirashihi. Nirmamaha bhutva. Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Beautiful sentences here. What does he say in the first? Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya. That is the first word that we will try to understand. Sanyasya, that means giving up the sense of doership. But I am doing it. That kind of a sense must be given up. So how do I do it? Sri Ramakrishna had very simple solutions for this. At the beginning of performing any action, you mentally offer yourself to the Lord. Oh Lord, I am beginning this action which really belongs to you, and I am offering it to you. Make this prayer at the beginning of your action. When in the middle, if you have some time, repeat the same thing with feeling, not just verbally, with feeling, and say, Oh Lord, whatever I have done till now, it goes to you. You take the responsibility of that. And then at the end of our action, at the conclusion of our action, let us again do the same thing, offer ourselves to the Lord. This is a very simple sannyasa. That means everyone can be a sannyasi in this manner. That is offering. A person who gives up the sense of doership, and then attributes that doership to the divine. So, and then whatever is given to me as a result of it, I just accept it as a prasad. I just accept it as a sacrament, as a prasad, and then and enjoy it. That's all. That is sannyasa. Then he says adhyatma chetas. Along with this sense of giving up, you must also fix your mind in the Atman, in the self, in the freedom of the self. Generally, we focus our attention on our body or mind. But at times we need to do this Adhyatma Chetas meditation. That means focus on the self that is pervading this whole body. The self pervades this whole body and mind complex. Ultimately, it pervades the whole world. Adhyatma Chetas. So, if we become too much bodily conscious, then we cannot think of the divine that is within ourselves properly. That is why Ishvaraha Sarva Bhutanam Hrid Deshe Arjuna Tishtasi Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Arudhani Maya, says Sri Krishna. Ishvaraha Sarva Bhutanam Hrid Deshe. The Lord is present in all beings. Hrit Deshe, where is he specially to be found? Hrit, that means in the heart, spiritual heart. Hrit Deshe Arjuna Tishtati. Sri Ramakrishna says, the heart is the drawing room of the Lord. If you want to find your host, you need to go to the drawing room. That is what it is. So, Ishvaraha Sarvabhuta. Therefore, I am offering this, and then I cover or envelop myself with the thought that the divine is present in me. These two things have to go hand in hand, that is, giving up and also thinking of oneself as the divine, or the divine presence everywhere, or especially within oneself. This is a very powerful suggestion that Sri Krishna makes over here. Adhyatma Chetasa. Then he says, Nirashihi. Asha means desire. Nirasha, free from all desires. See, our mind is like a magnet. It sticks. Iron filings get stuck to the magnet. The same way, our mind naturally gets stuck to the desires or the objects of desires. Something I see, something I smell, something I taste, through all of that, it just gets attached to those things. Very difficult. And Asha also indicates a concern about our future. Main Asha rakhta hoon. That means I have the hope. That means I have a hope about my future. Nirashi. That means here says, do not have this, try not to have this Asha, concern about the future. Where there is this self-effort, that means when I go deeper into my inner consciousness, in the path of sadhana, when there is, through our self-effort, we go onward and onward, we will find that tremendous strength, and at the same time, we will also find the tremendous strength not to get attached. For attachment and detachment, both of them requires strength. See, for attachment also, you put on some strength and then you get attached to it. See, but to detach yourselves also, it needs a lot of strength. Therefore, this self-effort, through self-effort, we need to have this nirasha, that means nirashi. That means not having much of asha. There are two words in Hindi especially. One is nirasha and hatasha. One is nirasha and hatasha. Nirasha there, of course, in Hindi means lack of enterprise. And hatasha means depression, listless, do not know what to do. In the first place, there is no strength for you or no push for you to go forward. But here, Sri Krishna is not talking about that nirasha, but he is now here talking about not having the ashas. Nirashihi. Then he says, nirmamaha. Mamatva, buddhi, devoid of the sense of egotism. See, this attitude of nirmamatva, that means this devoid, this sense of saying that not I, but thou. It saves us from getting stuck to the mind. As I earlier said, the mind is in the habit of getting stuck to the sense objects. But if this filter is there, this filter called the nirmamatva, Not I, not I. It will not get, though you can see it, you can feel the presence of the objects of desire, but there will be no need for it. I will mention to you here an incident from the life of Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya was married to Vishnu Priya, and one day he finds Keshav Bharati, a great saint, and proximity towards that saint brings in Vairagya, the sense of renunciation in him. So with the permission of his mother as well as Vishnu Priya, his wife, he decides to renounce and take to the life of sannyas. So on the other side of the river, one side of the river was Nadia, his village, and on the other side of the river lived Keshav Bharati. So early in the morning, he presents himself to Keshav Bharati and says, "Sir, I have come. Please initiate me into sannyas." Keshav Bharati says, "Well, Nimai," that was his name, pet name, Nimai. "Well, Nimai, you were a householder all this time. There was no need for you to give up this householder's life. You could as well lead that life and also take the name of the Lord. Why are you coming and asking me for sannyas?" Then Sri Chaitanya convinces him and says, "Look, the concern for my family, concern for the day-to-day needs of life, it takes my mind away from the Lord. Therefore, I want to get initiated into this order of sannyas." So Keshav Bharati says, "Well, but I will put you to a test. Only if you pass in the test will I be able to initiate you." So, all right, I'm ready. So Keshav Bharati goes to his hut, brings in a lump of sugar, that sugar lump, and then he brings it and says, "Extend your tongue." You extend your tongue, and he puts that lump of sugar on Sri Chaitanya's tongue, and he watches. Sugar does not melt. Even after several minutes, the sugar does not at all melt. Keshav Bharati himself is very much impressed, amazed. Then he says, "You are you are fit to be initiated into the highest order of sannyasis. Even I may not have this kind of self-control, because you have so much of self-control over yourself that the objects of the senses does not create any desires in you at all. See? The saliva does not come out at all because there is no desire. Inherent desire is not there in such person. So that is the highest ideal of this nirmamatva, that I am not this body, I am not this mind, etc. Mamata. So nirmamatva, asha is not there, there is no desires, and mamata is also not there. See, asha makes us worried about the future, and mamata makes us about the past and also of the future also, but most of the past, about the past. But mamata does not mean that one does not have empathy, but that person does not want to dwell in the past or the future. It's just present, in the present only. That is the idea. Nirashihi nirmamo bhutva. And then he says, Yudhyasva. That means fight. Vigatajvaraha. Vigatajvaraha. He says, with passion spent. This is there. With passion spent. That means without excitement. Excitement is the cause of all of our anxiety, as we all know. Excitement. We get excited by some good news or bogged down, depressed by bad news. So, Vigata Jvaraha, there is no Jvara. Jvara means rise of temperature, excitement, naturally. So, while working, if we become a prey to either resentment or to excitement, it won't be properly performed. That's it. I mean, all of you know this very well. To be objective, when you are health professionals or whatever professionals, you need to be objective in whatever you are doing. So there is no emotions involved in that. So you do not perform your actions on these two. Kshobha and Avesha are the two forms of Jvara. This is the commentator says. Kshobha and Avesha, these are the two forms of Jvara. Kshobha is resentment, Avesha is excitement. Because they steal you of the power of action, real action. So you do not know what is Uchita and Anuchita. That means what is right and what is not right. So it is stolen, as it were, by these two things, Shobha and Avesha. So he says here, Yudhyasva. You have to perform whatever you are supposed to do. You must perform. But Mayi Sanyasya, that is the very important word Sri Krishna uses here. Mayi, Krishna indicates that in me, I am the nearer than the nearest to you here. Do not go very far to look for me. I am here with you at all times as the Atman within yourself. Or we can, if we internalize, as the Sakshi or the witness in you. I am watching you all the time. Only get associated with me. Get attached to me. Once you get attached to me, the other type of worries and concerns and trials and tribulations will feel like a breeze, that's all. It will just go. It will be there. It will come to you. Sometimes it may come like a tempest, no doubt, but it will just pass away. This too shall pass. That is the wonderful mantra that we have in our life. This too shall pass. Nothing stays forever. Nothing stays for eternity. Everything has come and everything will definitely go. The corona has come and the corona also will go. But in the middle, it has taken away a lot of our so to say, peace of mind, so to say, peace of mind and other things. So, but let us just hold on to that Mayi. It means to me, to the Lord. If we can hold on to that Lord and revolve around the world, rotate around in the world, we will not fall off. Only when we give up hold upon the Lord, when we just release the hold on the feet, from the feet of the divine, that is when we get into troubles. Many a times when trials and tribulations come, I watch myself and say, well, I did not hold on to the Lord at that time. That is why this is coming, but it will also go away. This will also pass away. Nothing is going to be there forever. Nothing goes. This is a great rewarding, or it is a great message for us, wherein it gives us this sense of free freedom, the sense of freedom that I can become better again. I can go back to my normalcy, so to say, the real state, my real state, original state. I can think that if we can have this, Mayi Sarvani Karmani, all actions are ultimately generated from the divine, and it will also go back unto the divine. So we studied this in great detail when we dealt with the concept of yajna. See, everything comes from the Lord, and everything ultimately goes back to the Lord. It's a great relief to know that. It's a great relief. There's no doubt about that.